I'd like to introduce you to Yvonne Nangle. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Oh, wow.
For sure.
I first met Yvonne about a year ago, I think.
2 years.
Was it 2 years?
A little bit more, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
okay. I think there was this young woman in the parking lot of the food bank, making a donation, bringing a doodle in,
yeah,
which was great, and just talked about what she was doing, and I thought it was amazing and wonderful, and actually really appreciated the art. So I was really glad when I saw you the next year, and I was really glad as I got to know you a little bit.
Yes.
But now what I'm really excited about is I get to meet Yvonne and get to know you a little bit more, which is great.
Glad to have you.
Yeah. So before we get into the food doodles, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your art journey, what brought you to this point?
Sure. I've been creative all my life, for sure. And I grew up in a family of artists. So my dad is an artist. Wow. My sister's a professional artist. So it was always in the house. I have friends that say they walk into a bakery where they smell cookies baking and they think that reminds them of home. Yeah. But my memory of home is oil paint and Varsol.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really in our house. Yeah. But I really wasn't interested in it at that point. My main focuses when I was younger was athletics.
Yep. Okay.
And business as well. So my mom is an entrepreneur. Some of your viewers might know her flower shop that she had every year down at the east end of Dundas Street. It was called Mia's Flowers.
Oh, okay.
And so she was quite an entrepreneur all her life, So I didn't really explore too much art, but I always wanted to make things. Okay. I had a kind of a pivotal moment about, I would say maybe 10 years ago. And I had been working in pharmaceutical sales representative for many years, primarily in oncology. Okay. So pretty heavy days and, calling on all the cancer centers in southwestern Ontario day after day. And I said to my husband at one point, I just turned to him and I said, I just want to be a maker. And I always thought of myself as a maker, maybe more towards the craft area. And I started with when my kids were younger, before I did have my career, I was home for a number of years and I started woodworking. Which
is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I tried to make a bookcase.
Oh, no.
It was not a success. I realized then I didn't like straight lines. Oh. But I love the wood. The wood is much like paint and canvas. There's so many things you can do.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I started making puzzles. And I can show you here. This is one. This is probably 30 years old.
Wow.
And name puzzles just for friends, of my kids as gifts to bring. Yeah. And then they evolved into something a little bit more sculptural, even just still sticking with the names, right? Wow. That's made out of pine.
Wow. Okay.
And then it naturally, because come from a family of artists, it evolved into sculpture.
Wow. Okay.
So that's one of them that I have, again, 30 years old. Before I went into a business career. So, and then, as I was working and facing the end of my career, I started to think, what would I do? And I want to show you this because it's pretty, I dug this up because you're coming.
Yeah. Before we go into this though, I mean, you did sculpture and, you segued into something else, but there's so many, this was wood, there's soapstone, like there's additives, there's metal, there's all sorts of things.
That's right.
You decided to segue into more this kind of...
Things you could do that didn't demand an entire workshop, right? Course, all those things. And I was busy with my family growing up and I was busy with the career. Where does the creative urge go,
Yep.
right? And so here I was, calling on the oncologists, and these are my work notebooks.
Yeah.
So
From that time.
Yeah, from this time.
Wow.
Yeah, I pulled a few pages out. This says human leukocyte antigens. I can't even say the words anymore. But this is what we were talking about at the meeting, and this is what I was doing in my book.
Wow.
And it did help me think. I will talk a little bit about how these are kind of meditative.
Yeah.
But it helps me remember things, and it's just an urge. It doesn't go away even when you don't have a big workshop or things like that. So you can see the pages are full of those things.
Before we do a bit of the walk around,
Yes.
let's talk about these in terms of the doodles, because this became the natural extension of the doodles you were creating.
It did.
Yeah.
And again, they started to stack up.
Yep.
Right? And these are easy to do. They're meditative. I really don't think about them very much.
Yep.
I just let my pen go, and then I pick a few colors. I mean, I've done things like handed my husband the box of the markers and asked him to randomly pick a bunch, and just gone with whatever colors there's no risk in this.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of material. If one gets messed up, it's a piece of cardstock.
Yeah.
They're just so much fun. And they did start to stack up, and I was selling a few.
Yeah.
And then I thought, but I have so many. So we're going to talk about Instagram and how I'm an online artist. I thought, well, I had jumped into Instagram when I had started doing doodles, and then when I started painting, and I thought, well, why don't I, do it as a fundraiser?
Yeah.
It cost me very little in materials. It's just my time, and I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
And so I put on a little fundraiser message in my Instagram.
Yeah.
And I ended up raising, the first year we raised, I think it was almost $800.
Yeah.
And the second year it was really close to 1,000. So it's called Foodle Doodle June.
Yeah, which is actually going to be coming up.
They were fun.
Yeah, actually, which is amazing. I mean, obviously the food bank has been the recipient of it, but it's the kind of fundraiser that you can do for anything or anybody, so whether you're an artist and when you're involved in Instagram, I mean, it's
been amazing.
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
Been wonderful. So yeah, I'm the proud owner of a couple of doodles, Foodle
Doodle June,
Foodle Doodles, which has been wonderful. So can you show me a little bit how you do your doodles?
I can.
Actually, which would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can sit down and I can show you my little station.
Sure.
And we'll go from there.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Take a little walk.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
It's pretty simple. It has a ring light. I'm going to put my phone in there. And then usually I would film it on time lapse. And you could post that on Instagram for some fun. I have a mat that I'm just going to use to mark my boundaries. I have a scrap piece of paper. I have a Bic Gelosity 0.7 pen, which I find works really well on the cardstock. And then the big extravagance that I have, but you absolutely don't need, is this beautiful big bunch of colors. They're Ohuhu markers. I'll show you there. And honestly, I started with, I think, a pack of 8 or 10, and it was enough. But it is really fun to paint, to have the choice of all those colors. And then, of course, a comfy chair, really important.
So tell me the meaning of the flowers and the big bold colors then.
Okay, so I have this philosophy about the difference between joy and happiness.
Okay.
And I think happiness is a long-term goal, and it's pretty hard to achieve. We talk about the story ending, they lived happily ever after. Mm-hmm. What I am looking at is joy. Mm-hmm. This gives me joy to make, and I want to show people that I want them to feel a spark of joy when they see it. I think color does that a lot. And
pure color does that.
Pure color does that. I want to, I visualize my work in someone's home.
Yeah.
I'm not aspiring to be in the Museum of Modern Art. I would love it to be in someone's home, and that as they pass, they get that little spark of joy.
Yeah.
That I think when you have those kinds of things throughout your day, that is what really leads to a happy life. That if you recognize what makes you happy. I was looking out our window and we have a bunch of dandelions in the lawn, and I'm thinking, oh, it's a little bit aggravating that it's not cut, but I love to see the bright yellow.
Yeah.
I love to see the bees, and I feel like I'm doing a good thing. So it's those little bits of joy every day that add up to happiness. So when I work on a painting, I'm feeling that joy. I am hoping that someone who passes by will get that little bit of joy too.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely got that when I came in and saw all the paintings on the wall. It's like, wow, this is great. I tend to think when I think of my paintings, I don't actually work with a lot of color. I like muted tones and then a pop of color that draws people's eye. But when I come into here and I see, and I'd hesitate to call them simple because they're not, but they're simple in the sense of it's just a simple design, it's simple colors, it's flat, but it is
graphic.
It's graphic as in illustrative, and I there's a real beauty in that.
Thank you.
Actually,
Thank you very much.
Really great.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying making them.
Okay, so we've actually come downstairs. This is the basement. I've promised not to videotape everything, but what I absolutely love about studios is the paint and the chaos. Yeah. And so there's Yvonne, and she's saying this is kind of one of where she ends up in
This is my pose.
Favorite spot. Every artist studio that I've been to has a chair or has some place that they go to, because oftentimes you just need to sit back and contemplate it. So that's your favorite spot.
It is. You know why, Jane?
No.
I spent my whole career, 25 years, in my car sitting down, and I can't sit anymore.
Okay.
So I need to stand. This is why I love this table, because it's raised.
And I love this table because it's got paint all over it. Yeah, so there's a painting in process.
Yeah.
And so
I
you're
put my
actually
light
working on
on
a
it
couple.
because I don't have light down here. I have lots of space, but I don't have light.
Yeah.
And that's my pose. I lift it from my table, put it on the easel. I rarely paint on the easel.
So that's in process, but so is this one. I came over here and I don't know if you can see it, but the texture, it's amazing. So this is take me through. This is the start, isn't it?
This is the start, yeah. I start with modeling paste.
Okay.
So, you commented about the flatness of my shapes and colors.
Yeah.
And I do want the paintings to have some texture to them as well. So I have learned to use modeling paste. Guess where I learned it? On the Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah.
From another artist who went through her process. I mean, YouTube videos, Instagram, I learned so much, especially during the pandemic, but even beyond. There's so many little tutorials and things like that. So this is modeling paste.
And then you just
I
palette knife, or what? How do you get some of this texture?
Okay, so is that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is the one I use primarily. I have no idea where I got it. I don't know if it's an art tool or not. I'd sure like another one if anybody can tell me.
Is that? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's some kind of cake thing. Yeah,
cake decorating.
And then these are rollers, like paint rollers that would put on like a leaf pattern.
Yeah.
It won't give you a leaf pattern anymore because I've used it so much. And this was just dots.
Yeah.
And I just roll it through, and then I smear it off.
Yeah.
And then I do this, and then sometimes it's
that's
very
the fun of it.
Fun.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come across in this that I am having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun.
Yeah, you're playing with it.
I'm just playing with it.
So when I went to Susan Day's studio, she talked a lot about the same thing, looking for different implements like this just to make different marks on the clay, etc. So you're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Not traditional art implements.
No,
paintbrushes, not palette.
Not.
Now you're going to cover it all up because it's about the texture, and then you cover it up with
these. This is my painting paper station, I guess you'd call it. A lot of it, like you can see this is just, I was painting something with black and I cleaned my brush on it because I'm trying to keep as little paint out of the water, right?
Yep.
So just that. And then other times I decide who doesn't need neon orange? I'm asking you. So I will just paint the paper. This is a rice
your
paper.
doodle? Yeah, so it's a rice paper.
It's a rice paper.
You'll doodle
And then
on
I'll
it
use
and-
this for my collaging.
Okay.
This is what I use for my collaging.
Right.
Yeah.
And you start with an idea as far as, like, do you start with a doodle? Do you start with a drawing of flowers, or do you just basically work it out on the canvas?
Do you know what? It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I have very little rules for myself because
Okay.
I'm mostly here to have fun, right?
Yeah.
But something like this, so it's such a nice dark background, and a little piece of white chalk
Okay.
will go a long way. And I might just start.
So you start with a doodle, but you're...
I could start with a doodle, or I could
you
start
start-
with a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like, look at that bright orange paper, and I might take a big round shape and stick it on.
Okay.
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 So, like, I can show you that.
It's very intuitive then.
Here.
Yeah.
This painting started with these two pieces,
Yep.
and all I did was stick them on.
Wow.
So it's I'm just having fun. No. So this might, like, this I can't really see. I would go back to my spot over here, and
Yeah.
I would look at the drawing. Hey.
And then see whether you want to change it or go from it.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so the whole process is a lot of fun for you.
Oh my God.
And then if you do get something you don't like, you just keep going until you do.
Exactly. And you know, if I didn't like this after doing some stuff, I take my actually this another. I don't know if you use this baby wipes. Do you use baby wipes? In
I
your
do.
life?
I use baby wipes when I travel,
Well,
but I don't use
this
baby
is
wipes.
the best thing to, like, look. It just takes it right off.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I could just and start over again.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes the best art materials are the ones you have around.
That's
actually.
right.
So when
That's
you think of artists of history, they used whatever they could find, right?
Exactly.
So can we sit down now and talk a little bit more about the Instagram and getting your art, and how,
Sure.
if someone's starting, how they would actually use some of those
Absolutely.
tools,
Absolutely.
or even just some of the, you know, when you think about learning, where's the best place to find
Sure.
online where to learn?
Sure. I can
Awesome.
tell you where I've been.
So welcome back, Yvonne. We've done a little bit of a talk in terms of your journey. We've done a little bit of a tour around. We've seen some of your paintings. We've talked about your process.
Yes. That's got to be it, Jane. That's enough.
No, you know what? I think one of the interesting things that I thought, and I think you brought this up as well, is that neither of us actually are typically trained artists.
Right.
So how does someone go finding information?
Yeah.
How does somebody, and I would hesitate to call them self-taught, but be self-directed to
Yes,
find people,
yes.
the people who can teach you how to get. So you've talked about your journey a little bit in terms of, you know, the internet and where you went for resources. And then I think the second component to me is also, you know, I think things are changing. You know, there's obviously the public gallery system and the gallery system, but the gallery system has only so many walls and
That's
only
right.
so many
That's right.
places to show, only so many room for so many artists. Yet the internet has exploded, and you've actually used Instagram to
Yes,
a degree,
yes.
which has actually led you to a few galleries. But if we could talk
has.
about that as well,
Yes,
that would be
for
awesome.
Sure,
So
for sure. Well,
So ramble
like you
away.
said- ramble
Ramble
away.
away.
I'm really good at that. We're off to the races. Okay.
So let's say somebody
Instagram. Let's talk first about the learning,
Okay.
because you know, there's a newfangled thing called YouTube. And during the pandemic,
YouTube. Oh my goodness, that took me years. How come YouTube's not coming up with the U? But anyway, yeah. So YouTube, yeah.
Yes. So, you know, you can learn anything now. You just have to look it up. And you will find things that you don't care for, and then somebody will spark for you. If some of your viewers want to look up Bob Burridge, have you heard of Bob Blasts?
No.
Okay, you got to look him up. He is a gentleman who lives, I've forgotten where he lives, but he has
lives somewhere.
hundreds.
He lives somewhere.
Yes, and he's very happy there.
Yeah.
He has hundreds of little bits of lessons on his website.
Okay.
And he, he really brought home to me the joy. We've been talking about that. He loves what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it shows in his work. And he gives simple instructions on, complicated things. Like, just as an example, the color wheel.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have it. I look at it. He makes
the tertiary,
it.
The complementaries, all of those. Just whatever. Yeah. Of course. Just stop.
He makes it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. And he tells you, in simple terms how to do it. So he was one of the first places that I started. Then I discovered an artist named Amanda Evanston.
Okay.
She is in the Chicago area. And she has a group that she called the Insider Studio. And right as the pandemic her story is an amazing story of resilience and the horrible word of pivoting.
Yep.
And she started this every week, you get a lesson. And she does it with such fun and humor and fast and free and loose.
Yeah.
And but she teaches concepts and you learn a lot. I joined that, right as the pandemic was starting. And honestly, it's not my art. Like, it's not really what I want to do.
But you still have to learn from someone.
But I learned, and I learned, to be joyful and to do what you like and things like that. And other people do find a big community there. So those were two early influences.
So it'd be good. I know, because you'll talk about other ones. Why don't I, before I leave, I'll get a list from you of some of those influences.
Absolutely.
And are you okay? I'll actually at the end of this, we'll actually post them. So someone who's really looking for some of those things can actually find.
It's all
that
there.
Would be awesome.
It's all there. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Because I really did get a lot from it. And part of it was because of the pandemic, right? Maybe I didn't look for real life teachers because of that. So there's good in horrible situations because
I guess part of the thing is just to keep going, because let's say you want to paint clouds in watercolor and you type that into YouTube, a million videos come up.
Right.
Not everyone is good. Not everyone's whatever, but you find the people you respond to and you just keep at it.
Exactly.
Just keep at it.
And you keep looking.
Yeah.
And even the ones that you don't respond to, sometimes you get one little bit, right?
Yeah.
If it's not how they paint, it's what paint they use. It's how to use alcohol inks. It's whatever, you might get one little thing. So those were two big ones. I treated myself to a course by an artist named Jane Davies.
Oh, she's got a great name.
She has a great name. Yes, she does.
Jane Davies. Okay.
Yes, she does.
Yep.
And she did this course, and it was a great kickstart because it was so difficult for me. It was way beyond what I was capable of even understanding. But it was 100 paintings in 10 weeks.
And you just keep at it.
You just keep at it.
100 paintings.
Yeah. And they weren't meant to be finished paintings, but they were meant to be exercises. Yep. And each week was a different, and she was very rule conscious, like in terms of the lesson. She's not rule conscious in her art, but in terms of when she's teaching, she, mark making or differences, whatever the lesson was. So that really forced me to look at painting differently too, because it is, when you talk about any business, okay, and I come from, I used to have an exercise club in St. Thomas. I did that for almost 10 years. So I've run businesses. My mom was an entrepreneur, as I've already mentioned. And you do start to understand when you try to do 10 little, small, big paintings in a week, that there is an element of you need to work. You need to keep producing. You need to figure out how to produce, right? Like you
can't let the block stop you.
That's right. Yeah. That was Picasso said, inspiration or something like that finds you working. Is that the right?
Something like that. Yeah. So we'll find that one too. And put it on. Sometimes those quotes are important to put there.
Exactly. So that was a really, really pivotal one for me as well, like in terms of intensive 10 weeks of I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn something, that kind of thing. Yeah. So all those things were on the internet. And then of course I was hearing from all the artists that I follow, about Instagram, and I started looking, right, and then I got the courage, really, because it is a big leap, right, to show your work. It's
intimidating.
I've been in sales all my life,
it's intimidating.
but this is me, right?
Yeah.
This is me. This is me putting out something that is important to me, and I worked on it, and I love it, and I, to take the step to start posting, and it didn't take long for me to really start to love that too. I look at it. Some artists fight against Instagram, and they talk about the algorithm and all those things. I found it another way to show my creativity. So I loved making those.
It's kind of your art gallery.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and it's not just about my art. I like making the videos.
Yeah.
Like I like doing my doodles and then manipulating them a little bit so that they want you to only last 6 seconds, right? So like all those things, I liked doing those things. I view it as part of maybe the job and part of my creativity as well. So I got to do it. Now, the next thing that happened.
So the buzzword for that is content creator.
Yeah.
But it's not in that kind of context. What you're actually showing is the creation that you're doing. You're showing your art, but you're using a format that people will see, and you're using a different venue.
That's right. It's making art.
It is making art.
It's making art, again, a different kind of creativity.
So
much. I want to just check my notes. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. I do that sometimes too.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about, just continuing on what you were saying about the everybody likes something different, right? I think we drift toward that. And the artists that I follow on Instagram love color. Okay. And then the other thing that I look for, who are those artists that love color that seem to be doing business? Right, that seem to be marketing their art, and you come to realize there are people who like colorful art, and that also gives you the inspiration to keep going with what it is that you want to do. I don't need to change, because even if it's just a few, I know there's people out there who like color too.
Yeah, and it grows and grows and grows. A good friend of mine won a journalist award actually recently. She writes for the London Free Press, but I remember one of her comments was really funny. Wow, only 37 years in journalism to be an overnight success. But it
sometimes
points to,
that's how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes in terms of that concept, it's a lot of hard work. It's like the bands that go around and play. You just have to stick at it, and if you're doing what you love,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But generally, the appreciation, and you find your tribe.
That's right. That's right. You find your tribe. Exactly. That's a good expression.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful getting to know you a little bit better. It's been wonderful seeing your art. It's been wonderful playing in terms of, well, actually not playing. Maybe sometime I'll come and we'll play.
Okay.
But seeing how you play and the playing that you do on the artwork that you have, it's been amazing. So thank you so much. It's so good.
Yeah,
my goodness. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. We ended this with a hug, which is great.
We started with a hug too.
We did. Yes. Thanks for watching this week's edition of The Paint Box. At the end of this, we will scroll some of that information that Yvonne has. Can we also scroll your Instagram post?
Absolutely.
And do you have a website as well?
Absolutely.
We'll scroll all of that. So if you're interested in looking at some of her doodles,
and more.
And more. Thanks very much.
Thank you.